Good afternoon. First Toughness Tuesday of the season for us. Excited to be 1-0, and now it's on us to try to duplicate the process for this week. Want to recap last week. Want to first start by thanking the fans. I thought just an unbelievable atmosphere at Faroe Field on a Thursday night. The student section was unbelievable. They were loud. They were there early. They were pouring in as we were warming up. I thought when the game kicked, our stands were full, and that was just an awesome way for us to start fast. And so appreciate the fans and all that they did to create the environment, a winning environment. And then I just saw where the Hill is already sold out for this game, and excited about what we're working towards and hopefully extending the streak of sellouts. The game, I thought defensively we played very well with the fast start. Obviously we're always trying to create takeaways and be consistent at stopping the run. I thought we were consistently physical all night. Special teams, I thought Luke Bauer and Blake really did a nice job as the specialist. I thought Luke had his best game punting. Blake was good in both the field goals. We had the one kick out of bounds, but I thought they executed well. And then offensively, we started fast. I liked the being able to score points after the turnovers, but we do need to be more consistent in the throw game. The third downs that we missed were concerning for me. So there's plenty for us to work on, plenty for us to be concerned with that we need to correct, and we need to really do a good job. We're going to play a 1-0 Buffalo team led by, I think, one of the great program rebuilders and builders in Pete Limbo, who has done that at multiple stops, whether it was Elon, I believe it was Miami, Ohio. Does just an excellent job of building culture, evaluating talent, getting the most out of his players. Does an excellent job recruiting. He has a tremendous staff. I think their offensive coordinator's got a lot of experience at both Coastal Carolina, Georgia Tech, Old Dominion, and now at Buffalo. I've talked football with him several times when I was at NC State. I think he does a really good job utilizing tempo. He's got very good players. Their quarterback played at SEMO 2 years ago when we played him, so there is some familiarity there. On the defensive side of the ball, they've got a tremendous scheme. They're very disciplined in what they do. They have a clear identity of who they are. They're going to stop the run and utilize their safeties in the run game and in the pass game. And then obviously Coach Limbo's fingerprints are all over the special teams. He's a tremendous special teams coordinator. Has always given us fits going against him. You can always expect the unexpected with Coach Limbo on that side. So, really got a tough challenge ahead of us, and looking forward to that challenge on Saturday. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
Coach, you mentioned that this is not the first time you've played against Buffalo's quarterback. In 2021 against Southeast Missouri, you ran for almost 100 yards. How do you guys contain his rushing ability?
Yeah, that's going to be the challenge this week. Obviously, we've got to do a good job in the read game. They try to get on your edges through zone reads, +1 run schemes, and option. So we're going to have to be disciplined in multiple in the way we're challenging those read schemes.
I think you guys played more than 70 guys offensively or defensively. Were there any of those kids, especially maybe kids who were getting out there for the first time, that really caught your eye and might have earned a little longer look?
Honestly, I was impressed with the way all of our defense played from start to finish. I looked back up there at the last, I think it was, I know our freshman linebackers got 8 reps, and watching those reps, Jeremiah and Nick, I thought, did an excellent job. We know Trajan Greco was playing it, both on special teams and in the secondary. So I think there was a lot of people that earned opportunities to continue to play. And to find their way into the rotation. We made some changes on the special teams depth chart to reflect that, to try to get those guys in the game this week. So we'll see how it plays out. You don't take anything for granted, but I've been really impressed with that freshman class.
You mentioned more consistency on third down in the passing game. How do you go about attacking it with those guys this week in practice?
Yeah, fundamentals. It starts with fundamentals: route depth, timing, quarterback setting his feet when he makes throws. not drifting after he throws the ball to get ready to go do a celebration. Like, finish the throw, have your feet set in the pocket. Wide receivers got to run their routes at the correct depth. They got to explode out of them. The quarterback's got to make the throws. So just really things that we can do. It starts in routes versus air. We did that yesterday, and it's going to continue in RVA today and in Skelly and in teams. So, it's just back to the basics of execution and kind of pushing the limits in practice. Don't practice just to practice, practice to improve. And, that's really going to be the message that I have with the skill guys.
With the defense, it looked like on some of those third and longs, Coach Batoon was trotting out a 3-1-7 type setup. Just what does that do? Why does that work in those situations?
Yeah, it's a carryover from the package we've had in the past. Obviously, we've got some new fingerprints to it, but it's something that our guys are familiar with. It was the base third down package that we carried the past 2 years, and now Corey and the rest of the defensive staff have added, kind of their fingerprints to it. It's a way to utilize the most speed and also versatility that we can get on the field, also with our pass rush. So, that's what it was.
How important is it to have 3 corners out there that you trust when you're calling in that particular package?
Well, it allows you to play man-to-man and put somebody on the slot, which typically when your slot ends up becoming the position that they match up on a safety who's not used to playing man-to-man quite as well. So, for us, we slide Dalen back to the boundary safety and move Nick into that, or Toriano, I think, slid into the slot. It's something we did last year. Ennis slid into the slot. So it's just something we've done before. Obviously, Coach Pogue's done a really good job training up those corners in order for us to have confidence in it.
Coach, when did you know that you were going to play the start about 2.5 quarters? Was it 4 games sometime during the game? What can we ideally expect for the starters this week?
To play the whole game. I didn't have any plan. I don't know what the opponent's going to do. The opponent has a say in everything that we do, so I didn't go into the game without, we have a plan to win, and until the game is in hand, our starters are going to play. So my anticipation is a really good Buffalo team. They scored 30-something points, had 200 yards rushing, 200 yards passing. Would have been a lot worse, but they had 2 special teams miscues that allowed the other team back in the game. So my anticipation is that it's going to be a dogfight, and we're going to have to prepare that way. So as far as what ultimately led to the decision, at halftime it was 35-0, and I felt like at that point it wasn't. I'd seen what we needed to see out of Brady, and then didn't really want to put. Theo was already kind of dinged up, so didn't want to put him in any more jeopardy, and Connor Tollison has had plenty of snaps, so there wasn't anything we needed to see out of those guys.
Coach, one of the units that saw a lot of guys play last week was the offensive line, especially with them getting some goal line reps. What are some things to maybe could see some areas of improvement heading into the future?
Well, we didn't sustain blocks as well as we wanted to on the outside zone. I don't think our counter scheme was as clean as we wanted it to as far as our kick out. I think we were light a little bit on our inside zone double teams. So there's plenty of opportunities for us to continue to improve. Specifically with those young guys, we got down inside the 10 and weren't able to score, running, inside zone behind. We have 2 guards in there that are 340 pounds apiece, and we were getting knocked back in the A-gap, so that's got to improve if we want to have a shot in this league.
Eli, in that first quarter alone, there was a lot of rotation in the front 7 specifically, even when you still had most of the starters in. Do you feel like you have enough diversity of skill set in that group to really just play players where they're best suited?
Are you talking about defensively?
Yeah, the front 7 on the defense.
Yeah, the front 7 on the defense, we feel really good about the depth and the quality of depth that we have, and the ability to keep guys fresh. And so I think that rotation is going to continue because we just don't see a drop off. I think Corey Flagg might end up being our leading tackler in the game, and he doesn't play on third downs as of now, and rotates. So I think we feel really good about when Corey and Khalil come in with Chuck and Tristan, who've played a lot of football for us, and then obviously in the D tackle room with Christian. Last year we played 4 guys really in the defensive tackle. This year we feel like we've got 6 with the emergence of Marquise Graciel. Obviously Sterling has played a lot of football and really played well. Chris played well. Jalen Marshall's come in and played well, and Sam Williams has earned a spot too. I mean, he's done a really good job going against our guys. So, we feel like we've got 6 guys that can really play at a high level in that room, and that's only an advantage for us as we prepare, for this week's opponent and moving forward.
Did it really come back to you that Blake Craig was the guy that was going to succeed Houston?
Last year in fall camp when Harrison wasn't kicking as well as we wanted him to, and so I put Blake with the ones just to send a message that there is no secured positions. And we had to do that with Blake this year in fall camp. There was a couple days where he wasn't kicking as good as we wanted him to, so we put Nick in there. So, I mean, at the end of the day, every position's up for grabs in competition. I mean, you see that throughout college football. There's no sure things. So if you're not producing, then next guy's got to be ready. And that's the always compete mindset that our program's built on. So if you're not at your best, somebody else in this building is, and they're going to take your spot.
Coach, a couple days to digest now. Talking with Brady and maybe Chuck on defense too, how do you think you guys utilized the helmet communication, tablets on the sideline as well? How was that in game 1, and what would you guys like to do moving forward with that?
Yeah, it was fine. I thought we utilized them well, utilized them to our advantage, utilized the headset communication system well. I don't know that we'll change anything really.
Coach, you mentioned that Brett Norfleet and Theo Weiss were more precautionary not to play in the second half after the game. What have you seen from them? Or have they been practicing, and what can we expect for Saturday?
Yeah, I think those are great questions. The SEC has issued a new injury protocol. We're going to start following that. I think we started on Wednesday, so we'll update our injury reports on Wednesday, and then you'll get a Wednesday update, a Thursday update, a Friday update, and a Saturday morning update. So if you're not a gambler, it won't help you. It'll be kind of boring. If you are a gambler, you can really watch that money line.
Can you explain the importance of rebuilding and investing in the offensive line?
Rebuilding and investing in it? I mean, in order for you to be good offensively, you're going to have 5 guys working cohesively as a unit. They have to do probably the toughest job in college football, in my opinion, because they have to be able to move immovable objects, and then they have to be able to work backwards and protect a quarterback versus somebody who is, by evaluation, quicker, faster, and more sudden than they are. And that's a really, really difficult challenge. And then they have to be selfless. It can't be about them. It's got to be about the team and everybody else, and they got to kind of work together. So it's a really important part of any successful football team. I don't think there's ever been a successful football team that didn't have 5 selfless men, and really it usually ends up being 7 to 8 that you have to play throughout the year. So for us, I'm a former offensive line coach and GA. That's always going to be a position of emphasis for us. I think, in order for you to have success in this league, you have to have an O-line and D-line that is competitive and has got the prerequisite size. And so for us, when we lost Jalen Marshall, when we lost Javon Foster and Xavier Delgado, who combined, had almost 40 starts, I think, just both guys Mr. Consistent. We knew that left side was going to be really important for us to fix and provide competition. So we went out and looked for what was best available in the portal, and we're able to get them. So.
Eli, the play that Luther fumbled on
Bulldog.
Thursday. Okay.
Bulldog.
Yeah. Was that a handoff?
It's supposed to be a pitch.
It's
supposed to be a pitch.
Like a pop pass. And
yep.
Did something get messed up in the execution, or was that a challengeable thing if you thought it was a pop pass?
So I asked him because we thought it was the way the play is originally designed, it is supposed to be a pitch, so that if that was to occur, it would be an incomplete pass. but after reviewing the tape, there was Luther went through the hands of the quarterback instead of the necessary 1 yard in front. So based on what I was asking the official if they were going to review it, and they cleared it in the booth. That's the process. We ask, hey, are they going to look at it? And if he says they're going to clear it, that means you either have to challenge, but they didn't see anything in the booth. But when you watch it, it would be really hard to decipher, because the way he went through his hands, you wouldn't be able to see whether or not he pitched it or not. And there is no such thing as control, because it's a backward snap. So at that process, everything's a fumble until the ball is controlled and then pushed forward. So I don't think it would have been overturned.
Coach, Buffalo's got the reigning MAC Defensive Player of the Week on the team. Sean Blackie seemed to be everywhere for them last week. How do you neutralize a player like him?
Yeah, really good player. Guy that pops all over the tape. Was injured last year. Was an all-conference player of the year before. I think led their team in tackles and was really high up there in the country. You can tell he studies tape. You can tell he's very smart, physical player at the point of contact. They utilize him in the box, out of the box. They pressure with him, so he's a really good player. It's going to be a real challenge for us. He's consistent with what you see in our league, so he's a guy that as we work off combo blocks, we're going to have to make sure we can get to him. Otherwise, he'll make the tackle, and we're going to have to know where he is in pass coverage, and not make a mistake with the ball, because he's got really good hands.
Coach Corey Flagg, what was your pitch to him after Coach Baker left, and just to keep him bought in and wanted to be part of this program?
Yeah, honestly, there really wasn't a pitch. He chose this place. Coach Baker had a lot to do with it, obviously with previous relationship and knowing the scheme, but he chose this place for the guys in the locker room, and has reiterated that throughout the process, that this was a place for him and his brother because of the men in the locker room, and obviously that we kept the scheme very similar with Coach Batoon, so he had familiarity with the calls.
From the coaching staff perspective, how does it work when a player comes in and then he says, here's my brother, and his brother ends up coming over to you? How does that happen?
They say, I have a brother, he's a really good player, would you watch his tape? And we watch his tape and say, he's a really good player, would he like to come here? And they go, yeah, we would like for him to come here. And we would say, okay, well, he can come here.
Anything else for Coach?
Last week that scouting for Murray State was very difficult because
Yeah.
60 new players and new scheme. Is this week any easier with you knowing Pete Lembo personally and having tape from week one to look back on?
It's a little bit easier because you have all their players on tape with a week one game that went 4 quarters, so you're able to assess personnel. There's still a lot of question marks related to scheme. Their defensive coordinator, was a part of a staff, but has not called defenses before, so you're not quite sure exactly what his DNA is, because you don't see but one game. There's not a consistent approach to it, so that's been challenging. You go back and make the best guesses that you can based off his training. Special teams I feel pretty good about knowing, some of the things that he can do. It's just a matter of when he's going to do it. Offensively, Coach did not call plays last year, so he's been a year removed. We've gone back and watched him at different areas and different spots to kind of see, okay, this matches more. They're running a lot more tempo, which reminds us more of his time at Coastal than, say, at Georgia Tech, where they were not as much tempo and more ball control. So, again, we're going to have to utilize our coaching ability. We're going to have to utilize the iPads in game to figure out how exactly their plan to attack us is in both phases. But we have a little bit better idea of what the personnel is. And at the end of the day, schemes are important and they're part of it. But at the end of the day, it's a people-based game, and so we gotta win our one-on-ones. We gotta attack defensive weaknesses, offensive weaknesses based on personnel too, and try to isolate the mismatches. And I think teams that can figure that out the quickest usually have the most success.
I think there were 4 or 5 60-point games in the league last year, and last week, half the league won by at least 48. Do you think that there's a different approach with the expanded playoff and stuff? Do you think, margin of victory, things like that come into play and matter early in the season?
No, I think my take on it is twofold. I think one, with the ability of the portal to take top tier talent from lower divisions, I think you're seeing some of that result. I think some of the schools that in the past would have had, have developed some of those players no longer have those guys. They're playing up at different schools. And then I think the next thing you're seeing is the need for us as coaches to see as many guys play as possible, as long as possible. And so, I saw where Coach Kiffin talked about that he didn't even consider reducing the quarters, and I'm with him 100%. I mean, we got to have our guys play, and we've got to get as many quality reps because that's how you develop, And so I think you're seeing guys who need to let their 2s and 3s play and play at a high level. And when you play to win the game. You play to score, you play to stop people, and you want to see them compete at the very best. So I think those two factors are going to lend to some of the mismatches, on the field. But that wasn't the whole story. I mean, there's other schools that, go toe-to-toe. There's some games out west that games were in doubt in the fourth quarter. So, every game's a little bit different, but I do think some of that in our conference is the ability for us to attract some of the top-end talent from the lower divisions.
Has your approach changed at all with what happened to Florida State in the playoff last year in regards to using starters in some of these not early games but non-con games?
No, I haven't. I don't even know what you're referring to, honestly. I mean, that's football, man. I mean, you can't control that stuff, So there's no like master plan or there's nothing like that. I mean, we're playing to win the game. When the game's in doubt, for us, I'd seen what we needed to see out of Brady, but what I haven't seen Drew Pine play in a crowd in a stadium, and needed to see him operate with a lot of guys that if he's called upon with the ones, he's going to have to be able to work with, and there's only so many reps you can get in practice like that. So, for us, it was about doing that, and really the same thing on defense. Like, as these games get going, weeks 7 through 12, it's about the competitive depth that you have in order to win, and that competitive depth may show up on special teams units. It may show up on third down, packages. It may show up on first and second down. I mean, Crud, last year we played really the first 5 games, with 3 linebackers, just because we didn't have a lot of quality depth. And then we were kind of, when Hop got hurt, we were forced into really just 2. We had 2 linebackers last year that played, and that just can't happen if you want to play a long time. So for us, it's about getting as many players ready that have the talent as possible.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep, thank you.